Sippers, welcome to this episode of the Tea With Me podcast. I'm Shane Todd. It's the solo Friday episode, and I'm gonna be honest, like some sort of mad rebel, I've got my feet up. I put my feet up just at the start of this podcast, and I'm a little bit pissed off at myself because the chair that I'm resting my feet on is slightly too far away for it to be comfortable, but I've committed to doing it, so we're just gonna keep it there. We're just gonna dig in, put a smile on our faces, and pretend we're comfortable when we're not. Yeah, it's better. Guys, it's the solo episode. It's what we do on a Friday. We have a guest on the Wednesday episode. Last week we had Jamie Lee O'Donnell from Dairy Girls, which went down very well. People seem to really enjoy that. And next week, who is our guest? I don't know yet, but I will sort it out. I was about to say what's everybody been at, but I feel like I know what you've been at, and it's the same as me, and it's absolutely bugger all. I mean, not much is happening. Conversation is drying up, because you got to check in on people and make phone calls, but we're all running out of stuff to say. I mean, I've started making stuff up, like whenever I phone my parents, like, how you getting on? Then they go, good, how are you? That's what I've now started to lie. I'm like, yeah, sweet. I am. If I got attacked there by a walrus, and then they're like, what? How? You live on land, and that's when I just go into like, a half-hour story. Just it's something to talk about, and I miss lying back in the day, like school days, whenever people just told really silly lies for no reason. Like I was chief culprit in primary school of like tall tales to get out of a situation. You didn't need loads of situation. Teacher would go, have you got your homework? And you would go, nah, I forgot to do it. That's all you need to say. Not this guy right here. Shane, have you got your homework? No. See, here's the thing. I was going to do it. Like I sat down to do it because I love doing homework. And then you're not going to believe this. But actually what happened was Steven Seagal, and they stop me and go, look, if this is a lie, you should just stop. And I go, no, I swear Steven Seagal called in my house because my dad used to play five-a-side with it. And they're like, the Hollywood actor, the action star Steven Seagal. I go, yes, he played five-a-side with my dad, and they had been up at the driving range nicking golf balls up the back of it, and Steven Seagal realised he'd taken too many, so he was returning a couple of balls to my dad, and then he took me out in his banana boat. That's the level I was. You didn't need to do it. Like everyone knew you were bullshitting, but I like that back in the day when people just did this. Hey, my best mate Stevie, right? I have three best mates: Dave Elliott, Stevie, and John. So some people there, if I say best mate, will probably send this clip to Dave and be like, thought you were his best mate. Dave is one of my best mates, right? But my best mate Stevie, I would call my oldest best friend because he actually age-wise is older than the other two. But that's besides the point. We were talking about this years ago about like people that used to just lie back in the day. And he told me about this guy that we know in Hollywood. And Stevie went to primary school with this guy, and this guy like used to look bullshit all the time. And Stevie said this kid had in like a school shirt. This is like P5, P6 when they were what, I don't know, 9 or 10. Stevie's like, this guy, I went, yeah. He goes, he had like a pen in the top pocket of his shirt, and the way like the bit of the pen that hangs over the shirt is like the clip, like the pen clip, and it's just like a wee silver or gold bar. Well, this guy had like a novelty pen, and it was a wee toothbrush, and apparently the teacher was like, here, can you take that out of your pocket, because it's not like school uniform, take it off. And he goes, my dad got 2,000 of these. And the teacher went, what, pens with the clips? And he's like, yeah. He goes, they're actually wee toothpastes. No, they weren't wee toothpastes, alright, there was nothing in them, but just to emphasize his point, and I don't know why this has stuck with me for so many years, but Stevie goes to emphasize his point, but everyone also knew he was lying. The guy held, in like P6, the guy held the pen up to his nose and went, minty fresh. Now, the pen didn't smell of anything, but he thought that if he pretended it smelled like toothpaste, people would think it was toothpaste, but nobody thought it was toothpaste. And I'm really tempted to ask Stevie, right? I'm going to ask Stevie if I can really quickly phone him on the podcast. He might not be up for it because, like, you know, he's not like a comedian. He's just like a real man. But there was another story about that guy from primary school that I really, really, really enjoyed. Can I phone you on the podcast just to show I haven't set this up? To ask you to tell a story. Okay, he'll be really like, mate, what is it? And all, he'll have loads of questions, which to be fair, you would if someone's like, come on my podcast. But I really hope he does, because there was some other stories about that particular guy that just always made me laugh. Like, wee details like that, like, minty fresh. That really, really, really stays with me. And just bullshitting in general. Like, Jay, the reason I think Jay from The Inbetweeners is such a brilliant comedy character is because we all either were that person or knew somebody who was. Like everyone used to lie about girls as well. Oh, I have a girl up in Bangor. What? Because back in the day, you thought other places that weren't where you lived were so far away that nobody would ever check it. Oh, I ain't going out with 6 girls up in fucking Mollusk. You know, Mollusk is just car garages. There's no houses there, but nobody knew that back then. Just bullshitting. Here's one I really got myself into. Whenever I was about 15 or 16. Too old to be like just bullshitting. I was in Mallorca and I was away on holiday with a couple of mates who had a house out there. And I must have been 16, so it was like the first time I went away like by myself. And I went away and I saw that these guys were playing football in a wee like indoor tennis court / football pitch near where our apartment was. And I went over to the guys that were running it. It was like these like middle-aged Scottish guys. And I said, here, would I be able to play? And they went, yeah, no problem. And for absolutely no... This is the first time I ever just came out with one of these absurd, for no reason, tall tales. For no reason, when they said, yeah, you can play, I went, oh, I actually used to play for Man City. Now, why I thought that was watertight is because I support Man United, and I thought it was too obvious to say Man United. And I was like, just say Man City. And I said, oh, I used to play for Man City. I think part of it is I was an only child, and I did this in my stand-up show a couple of years ago. I told the honestly true story that I didn't know the phrase was only child and thought it was lonely child up until I was about 24. What? Think about how tragic that is. I'd spent my whole life going around when people said, do you have any brothers or sisters? I would go, no, I'm a lonely child. You know, there's just something really sad about that. And then I now have a brother and sister. You know, like whenever I was about 15, my mum had a brother and sister for me. And I remember even then going to people... I used to be a lonely child, and then my mummy and my stepdad had a wee boy and girl, so I have a brother and sister now. But that made it sound like I was lonely until they came along, and now I just hang about with them. You know, and there's nothing weirder than back in the day, that like guy in his late teens who was hanging out with 11, 12-year-olds. Like, there was nothing usually pervy about it, but even so, you're like, man, what are you doing? You know, a guy just with his R plates down, hanging out with full-on P7s. It's just always very, very weird. And he always seemed to have like slightly hair that was slightly too long, like over either hair that was over his ears, or the other weird extreme, which is his sideburns were way too high. You know, which is the sign of a fucking weirdo. But that's a great cup of tea. That is a great cup of tea. And also there's a table down beside me. If you were watching last week's episode, I went to put my tea down beside me, realised the table wasn't there, and ended up like the elbow falling through the bar. So I text Stevie and asked him to come on the podcast, tell a story. Now, he may well not do it because he has just had a little baby. So he might be doing real things. But I really hope he can come on and tell this, what will be an underwhelming story, although he is typing. I guarantee he has questions. Hold on. I mean, I've said Oh, okay. He's got the baby sleeping. Okay, mate. Another time. Yeah, that'll be fun. I used to actually do this podcast with my mate Stevie, who has never done stand up before, just works like a very normal job, and we used to do the podcast together, and that was about 5 years ago, maybe more. And then I started doing the Shane Talk. It was just always different versions of the podcast. But whenever I did it with him, I think people really liked it. Although, but it wasn't a big time for podcasts in general back then. So I think I put like 2 episodes out, and they got 34 listens, and I went, "Fuck this shit! I'm retiring from podcasts." But I'll maybe see if Stevie wants to do one in general, because some people do still say to me, "Why do you not just do them with your mate Stevie?" So maybe I'll do that. What I'm going to do in the episode today is waffle, ramble, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to talk about some TV stuff I've been watching in a second. Then I'm going to do listeners' questions. I'm going to spend about half an hour doing listeners' questions. Before we move on though, let me just plug the Patreon, which is patreon.com/teawithmepodcast. I'm going to be doing way more on Patreon, like every comedian I know is. Like Colin Geddes just put his SSE Arena film on his Patreon. Dave has been putting stand-up clips out in his for, I think, maybe a couple of months now, putting some videos up. So I'm going to put some more stuff on there. We do the bonus podcast every week, me and producer Dan, who just texts me there to say, how's it going? So I think, how's it going? All good. Yeah, so yeah, he said, how's the podcast going? I'll just go, all good, doing it now. So maybe Dan's like, hey man, how about you send me that audio so I can go to sleep, which is entirely reasonable. But yeah, I'll put more stuff out in the Patreon, maybe some videos that I haven't put up anywhere. Like I've got some stand-up videos edited that I need to put out, and I put out a video today which is yesterday for you listening now. I put out a video that I wasn't planning to do. I'm trying to plan my videos as best I can at the minute, but I put up a video where I'm saying, "What are you at, mate?" And it's just a guy who gradually just gets more literal about what he's doing. Like he's just like, "Oh, just existing, mate, on planet Earth." If you've seen that video, the reason or the inspiration for that video is real. I walked past 2 groups of guys. There was a guy and his mate, and then they walked past another fella and his dad, and they obviously knew each other. And me and my wife were walking past this, all happened at exactly the same time. And this guy went, "Oi, what are you at?" And his mate shouted back, "Just walking." And the guy could see that he was walking. His mate who asked what he was at could see he was walking, but the guy was like, "Just walking." And he goes, "You getting it tight?" And his mate goes, "Aye." And it was just clear they had absolutely nothing to talk about. They had absolutely nothing to talk about. And that got me thinking, let me do this sketch where one guy really wants his mate to tell him something, but his mate has nothing to tell him. So that's where that sketch came from. And then I did a sketch with Aaron Butler today. We filmed it. I think it'll go out today, the day you listen to it. And hey, who am I? The Doc from Back to the Future? Why am I getting my present, past, and future mixed up? I don't know. It took me way too long to think of the third thing there, which is future. But let me take a sip of tea. Oh man, that's good. So yeah, oh shit, oh no, I need to plug my charger into my laptop. But do I even have the laptop charger? Oh my god, this is such terrible podcast content. But I mean, it's just real life, isn't it? It's just real life, lads. Let me plug this in. Oh my god, this is a podcast first. No one's ever done this on a podcast before. Also really cool if anyone's just tuning in at this exact moment and they're like, "So what does he do in the podcast?" Oh, he plugs things in and all. There we go, crisis averted. I think producer Dan has just texted me there to say that he's just started watching Line of Duty. Just started watching Line of Duty, so if it's as good as everyone says it is, I may not be able to edit the podcast next week. I mean, I like a man who's just honest. Mother of God. That's a quote for Line of Duty. But also great that I'm out of breath putting my charger in. I mean, I exercise every single day, and I'm getting way more unfit. Yeah, Line of Duty is absolutely fantastic. I think you'll get addicted to it. First series Line of Duty, I think probably the best, but I'm a nut, like I'm a fan of every episode, every series, but I really like the first one. I said I was going to talk a little bit about what I'm watching at the minute, and the number one show I'm watching at the minute, so smacked out, Money Heist. And when I say smacked out, I mean I don't mean like there's smicks in it or it's made by smicks. Action, bro, you know. Cut there, fuck's sake. Oh. I love that. I would absolutely. Wouldn't it be great if you found out some people were smicks, but you just didn't know it, like Steven Spielberg? So, Stephen, whenever you made E.T., that must have been a really big deal for you because it's a real cult film. He's a fucking. I see when I first saw him and all, I was like, that's fucking weird. He's a wee alien and all, a big finger. Money Heist, the reason that it's smicked out is Smick seemed to absolutely love it. Cormac McDermott, aka the Barrack Boy, put up a status last week about why do all Smicks tell you to watch Money Heist? And it was then I clicked on, even though I'm halfway through Money Heist, I was like, yeah, Smicks would absolutely love this show. Like, for sure they would love this show. People are stealing, first of all, and they're stealing money out of a bank, and it's like, fuck the system as well. And it's also like Spanish, and also Diddy's, mate. You know, so that's kind of like the Smick dream, is a program about nicking things and Diddy's. Money Heist's good. It's like a Spanish series. It's on Netflix, but it's dubbed. And I never would have thought I'd be into that sort of thing, you know, because I don't really like stuff that's dubbed. You know, it just reminds me of like Jackie Chan films back in the days before my man Jackie learned English. You know, when like he'd be on a real delay and it was voiced over by a guy. I feel like it was voiced over by an American actor who was putting on a Chinese accent, which was very sly and vaguely racist. But Jackie Chan would be like, he'd be already have been talking for 7 minutes. And then it was always something like way too short. You know, like Jackie Chan would be like shouting at some guy and he'd be going for hours. He'd be like, and then all the translation would be is move. You know, but Jackie had been talking for 17 minutes. Oh man, I like Jackie Chan. Rumble in the Bronx. What a great film. I had that in VHS. Wore the thing out. Rumble in the Bronx. Great stuff. Yeah, Money Heist is really good. It's dubbed, and I wouldn't have thought I'd like that. But after like an episode or two, you stop realizing that it's dubbed. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really think about it. And I like that there's Spanish people in it, and I like that they can't really say their V's. And I like that we can say that because it is a bit racist, but they're also white. You know, so it's like, so no one's kicking off about that. No one's like, oh my God, you're so fucking anti-European. You can do any accent in the world as long as the people are the same colour as you, and everyone's fine about it. Everyone's fine about it. In this, one of the characters is called Salva, right? He's called Salva, but everyone in it calls him Salba, right? Not Sal. It should be Salva. They call him Salba. And I think that's really, really funny. And I enjoy it in the episode. If anything else has a V in it and some of the actors say B. You know, I really enjoy that. Whenever, like, no one says this, but when someone's like, I just got these flowers, who has a bass? Not funny. Oh my God, you're so attractive. Let me see your vagina. I mean, it's lockdown banter, isn't it? Like, it's not funny outside of lockdown. That's when I see they extend it another 3 weeks. I'm like, yes, that's responsible. And also, some of this stuff will appear a bit funnier because as soon as lockdown's over, if I said vagina, you wouldn't enjoy it as much because you're fucking enjoying it now, let me tell you. Maybe I get to... Maybe I get to see your vagina. Funny. I'm trying to think of other things that begin with V. And I've got nothing. I think we picked up vagina. And I think maybe we call this episode See Your Vagina. I don't know. We'll see. Might put some people off. Some, because the association with tea drinkers is they're very Presbyterian, and I'm aware we might have some Presbyterian listeners. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Arlene herself was a big fan. By the way, that was me going for the tea, not the thought of Arlene Foster listening or watching the podcast. I mean, fair play to her if she does, no problem. I mean, we're all welcome here, regardless of political position or beliefs. What's enjoyable for me is the thought that, of course, there's gonna be like a lot of pro-gay marriage people listening. I love that. There's gonna be quite a few gay guys and girls listening, which is great. There's gonna be a lot of bisexual guys like fucking really enjoying this podcast. There's gonna be some bisexual girls getting involved as well, But as well as that, there's gonna be one or two real nasty homophobic pieces of shit watching and listening to this podcast, and even me saying that won't put them off because they know themselves. They're just like, yeah, oh yeah, I hate it. I enjoy it. I enjoy the fact that maybe after this we all get together, we do a live episode of Tea With Me. We get the bisexual guys with all the gay guys, the homophobic guys, and we just drink a load of tea, and at the end of it, there's a lot of kissing. I don't know who's kissing who, but it's just one of those things where probably the lights go off for a couple of minutes and we just freeze time. I don't know, and then we all do the Men in Black thing after, the wee doofer they have that makes you forget what's just happened. I wonder, are guys still out dogging? I wonder what the policy on that is, because it's cheeky enough as it is. Like, are they really going to let lockdown end that pastime? Like the guys who take their dogs out for a walk, wink wink, but don't have dogs, but have the leads. I don't know. Also, I've got I don't know if it's controversial, but I have a bit of stand-up that is it's kind of about homophobia and stuff, and I'm 50-50 about putting it online because I think some people don't have the IQ for it. There'll be some people being like, mate, because my bit is basically about the fact that up until I think it was 1982, it was technically classed as illegal to be gay, to commit homosexual acts, gay acts in Northern Ireland. And I have this bit about it, but I think too many people are just going to make up their minds before they see the clips. They're going to be like, fuck me, mate, you can't say that. But like the joke is that in itself is so absurd. I don't know, we'll fire it up. Oh, no pun intended. We'll fire it up. I'm watching Money Heist, Bagina. I'm watching Money Heist on Netflix. Then here's my plan. I'm going Money Heist. I'm going Afterlife with Ricky Gervais because I love it, but I want to wait until I've got Money Heist out of the way. I want to watch The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan thing, and I want to watch Too Hot to Handle, because I'm missing like a bit of trash in there. Everything else I'm watching's been pretty good. Too Hot to Handle sounds like a lot of fun. I think it's like they take like a load of sexy people to some sort of remote island, and then they're like, hey, you can't kiss or do anything or like jack off or anything, and if you do, we're going to take money off you, and if you don't do these things, you walk away with a big pot of money. I mean, that's enjoyable. Also, speaking of TV shows on islands, was there a TV show, or have I made this up, where Jeremy Beadle, as in Beadle's about Jeremy Beadle, as in small hand Jeremy Beadle, that wasn't a show he had. Jeremy Beadle just had quite literally a small hand. He had another regular sized hand, but as well as that, he had a wee hand too. But because that was always the joke, wasn't it? Like back in the day in the playground, people go, "Oh, Jeremy Beadle has a big dick," but on the other hand, that joke has worked throughout time, like throughout the ages. But I think there was a show called like Beadle's Island or something. Or was this a dream of mine? Jeremy Beadle was the guy that hosted You've Been Framed, and he did Beadle's About, which was a hidden camera show, and it was fucking savage. Like, Punk being a hidden camera show, Ashton Kutcher, that like pretend to a celebrity that like their makeup artist is really rude, or I don't know. Beadle's About was absolutely savage. In Beadle's About, they would pretend that aliens had landed in people's gardens. This was in like, I want to say the early 90s, the mid 90s in England. And or they would pretend to some guy that his van had fallen into a river, and the guy would crack up, and Beadle would just be stirring the pot. I mean, with his good hand, and I'm R.I.P. my man Jeremy Beadle. I'm sorry about that, but I just had to do it because no, if you used the other hand, it would just take way longer. But yes, Jeremy Beadle, I think, was in this TV show called like Beadle's Island, and they just kept him on this island by himself, and he just went nuts. What I'm going to do is do the charity read right now for 1 minute, and then whenever I come back from that, I'm going to see if Beadle's Island was a real show, and if not, I'm going to see if Beadle has any kids, and if they would be willing to pick up the mantle and do Beadle's Island. I don't know, maybe I've just lost the plot, but that's a show I'd like to see if they're repeating it. Also, give me some recommendations in the comments for this. If you're like, man, there's this show not many people know about, tell me about it. Like Tiger King could have fallen through the net, but there would be some people who would see it. So is there something good on Netflix that no one's talking about, but everyone should be? Tell me about it. Or do we just want to see bank robberies and vaginas? Or is it also known Money Heist? I don't know. We're going to do a really quick read, and then we'll be back with listeners' questions. Sip, sip. Sippers, as you may know, we do a charity shout out every week on the podcast. We want to hear from anyone who's got a charity that they're working for at the minute, or they're just doing some sort of fundraising, even if it's a bit crazy and outside the box. Get in touch with us, teawithmepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to give you a little bit of a platform for that, because there's not many sponsors around at the minute. So in light of that, we'll just get a load of charities in and try and do something good. This week I want to give a quick shout out to Chest, Heart and Stroke, who are a local charity. They've been working with people in Northern Ireland for over 70 years. Over 80% of their work is funded by public donations from local people, and the money they raise is spent here, so it all stays within here. Their mission is to prevent chest, heart and stroke illnesses in Northern Ireland and care for those already affected by them. And their vision is Northern Ireland free from chest, heart and stroke illnesses. So if you want to check out more about the chest, heart and stroke, it's nichs.org.uk, nichs.org.uk. I know people who can attest to the great work they have done. So if you are in a position to make a small donation, or if you want to find out more about them, head over to their website and have a read up on the work that they do. Cheers, guys. Back to the pod. Sippers, welcome back to the second half of the Tea With Me podcast. This is the listener's question half, where you're not going to believe this. I hope you're sitting down, but I answer listeners' questions. There we go. Who'd have thought it? People are getting in touch with this week. The Sippers have spoken, and this is what they're saying. Anthony McLaughlin says, have you heard of the Velvet Hat Trick? Now, to me, without doing any research on that, the Velvet Hat Trick sounds like either an indie band, like a kind of Paul Weller type band, or the indie hat trick could well be a sort of sex thing, like a weird sex thing. The Velvet Hat Trick, where like, who wears velvet? Like magicians? Like where three magicians tie their dicks together and rub it on someone's shoulder. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to find out. Velvet Hat Trick. Velvet Hat Trick, yeah, they sound like guys that would support the Jam. Velvet Hat Trick. Oh yeah, I think it is a sex thing. Yeah, it literally is. So I don't know how close I am with the magician thing. Wow. Thanks for that, my man. Basically the definition of that is, of a velvet hat trick, is apparently using all three female orifices at the same time. There you go. Anthony McLaughlin there. Gentleman, poet, sipper. Buenos Aires Tommy says, by the way, he said, have you heard of the Velvet Hat Trick? And then tagged Gareth Maher. So I don't know if that was supposed to be just a private conversation between Anthony and Gareth, and the next message in the thread was going to be, want to check it out. And then the next message was going to be, yes, when? And then the next message was going to be post-lockdown. And then the next message was going to be, okay, meet me at Giants Ring. I don't know, but either way, hope you're having a good lockdown, my man. Buenos Aires Tommy says, what about a Tea With Me episode with Keith Cruz and Mike McGoldrick? Yeah, some people have asked this before. Would I do any of my hilarious comedy characters on the podcast and like interview them? I don't think so, because I've seen stuff like that before and it's weird. I think it's a bit weird. Like, it's a good idea, but it just kind of, I don't know, it's maybe a wee bit indulgent as well. Like you're going like, look at this plethora of greatness that I've made. these phenomenal characters who are basically all the same but just different ages and have slightly different voices. I don't think so. I don't think so. It's a bit like doing them live as well. Like some people say, would you do a live show with your characters? And I think it would be a lot of fun, but it would dilute my own stand up too much, I think. It would I wouldn't want people to be confused about what they were coming to see. If they're like, oh, I'm coming to see you live, it's just going to be me doing stand up. That's my main thing. That's what I'm best at, just doing sort of straight stand up. I've done Mike McGoldrick live before, maybe 5 or 6 times, about 5 years ago, and further back, and it was always good, but it would be weird to me to do more than one character on the same night. I don't know, I sort of like being able to pick up the characters and do them whenever I fancy it, as opposed to like committing to doing them. Like I would say if I did the characters like live on like some sort of tour, I would just be sick of them by the end of it. And it's also like really difficult to write material in character because it's not your natural thought, if that makes sense. So I know what I would think about lockdown or whatever, but by the way, post-lockdown, I'm not doing any material about lockdown. And the first time I said lockdown there, I don't think I said lockdown right. But the main point is I'm not doing any coronavirus, any lockdown material. I don't think people are going to want to hear it. I'm just talking about weird stuff and other things. But yeah, I think the idea of... So Mike McGoldrick is obviously very different to me. The main difference being a blazer. That's the only difference between us. No, it takes a while to be like, what would he say about this? What would he think about this? Where it's easier to write for myself because I go, oh, I know what I think of this because all I have to do is think about it. I don't know whether that was a great or a terrible answer, but thanks for your question, Tommy. Living the Dean, good Twitter name, says, would you rather have £1 million in cash or have the ability to be your own Wi-Fi beacon? As in, would you rather be the router and never have to worry about signal no matter where you were on Earth? I think it would be handy to be a human Wi-Fi router, but then again, a lot of guys are like kicking off about 5G, and I think a lot of guys are like cutting down 5G pylons and stuff. I don't know if they're pylons or like towers, but yeah, people are like cutting them down. So I would worry if I became my own Wi-Fi router. I don't even know if that's what you're saying, but I worry that like a lot of guys would spray paint me with like 5G kills. So probably take the £1 million in cash, and then I would just buy like a wee dongle. Dongles, I don't know what they were. I think they were maybe like flash drive, like pen drives. Dongles weren't said for very long. Like there was only about 2 years where people were saying dongle regularly, but I think that's a word we should have preserved and we should bring back. Like let's start calling something else a dongle. Like lamps, like I've got a lamp in this room. Lamp, well, like we've been saying lamp for far too long. Lamp, no one gets it. No one gets a root whenever someone says lamp because it's such like an old word. It's been around for so long. Lamp, it's not even that satisfying to saying. Let's call lamps dongles. That'll make the game a bit more exciting. Switch that dongle on there. Oh, cheeky bastard. So I just think we should switch words up a wee bit. And I know that wasn't your question, but thank you very much. Sean has a tea-based question. He says, Tetley or Punjana? For me, I think I was raised on Tetley, but now I'm more of like a support local guy more. So I think I would go Punjana. I want to say Punjana are a local company. Punjana are probably better. Yeah, I'll go. Look, let's go Punjana. Punjana is fun to say. Punjana. It sounds vaguely sexual. Let me see your vagina and Punjana. Enjoyable. But I like the wee Tetley guys, the wee cartoons. I like them. They were a lot of fun. Jimmy Johnson says, thoughts on Trump? My thoughts on Trump are kind of... I think nowadays, right, you have to just fucking enjoy things a wee bit. Like, if you look at the bleak reality of things, it's a depressing world out there. But if you just go, you know what, I'm going to put the feet up here and have a laugh with this. Some of the stuff Trump says is funny. He doesn't mean it to be, right? And it shouldn't be, and you shouldn't be saying that stuff if you're the president. But there's something about it where I just go, you know what, I could get bogged down in being like, that's a president shouldn't be saying that, knowing how this guy get elected. Because fucking loads of people voted for him. So there we go. Let's accept that. And then let's just enjoy some of the funny things. And the other night we were having dinner and we watched Trump quotes, like different quotes he said, for about an hour and a half. And then we watched George Bush ones, and it was hilarious. The number one George Bush one is whenever, and it's mad that there'll be some people watching going, who's that? George Bush was president 2 presidents ago. And there was this day where George Bush, like, we all know that phrase, I think. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. No. I went to take the piss out of George Bush for being a stupid bastard by getting that phrase wrong, and I have said it wrong. I think he said, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Now, I don't know if that's a phrase, and I've really fucking mugged myself off and I've gone a bit red because I'm so mad with myself. But George Bush, when he was president, bear in mind, I'm not president, so I can get phrases wrong. Alright, I'm just a full-time Northern Irish comedian. So nothing's going to happen. I'm not on the world stage, although this is fucking one of the most popular podcasts around at the minute. But that's not important. It is important and it's class, and thank you. But George Bush, when he was genuinely the president, was giving a press conference, and he said, there's an old phrase where I'm from. I don't know if you have it here, but bear in mind he was like 50 miles down the road. Of course they have it. He goes, fool me once, shame on you. Now, you could tell at that point he'd fucked it and he was struggling. And then he said, fool me once, can't you fool again? Now, what was funny about that is he just fucking admitted defeat and just sped it along. And I love that so much. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you can't get fooled again. I love it. He just flipped it and tried to move on. Always enjoyable to me. Rory Woods, one of my good comedy chums, Rory Woods, says, and by the way, Rory has a podcast called the Woodstock Podcast, which you should really check out. He says, most underappreciated Man United players ever. And Stevie Nice has jumped in as though he were this podcast host with the answer. He said Dennis Irwin. I'll not talk about football for too long because some people don't like it. Some of the sippers are like, no, I don't like football. I like fucking cricket and dancing. But just one really sassy cricket guy. But yeah, Dennis Irwin is a great shout, but Dennis Irwin wasn't underappreciated. Like, people were like, nah, solid as a rock, wand of a left foot. I have Irwin 3 on the back of an old Man United shirt, thanks to my mate Gary. But most underrated United players, I'll just answer this as quickly as I can. I'm going to say... I'm going to say Andy Cole and Dwight York, because as much as people love the Cole and York thing, it's kind of forgotten about a wee bit now. But I have never loved a strike partnership more than Andy Cole and Dwight York. Always playing with a smile on their faces. Best mates. Dwight York was going out with Jordan. Love that. Andy Cole was just Cole the goal. And I like the joke that Andy Cole sort of birthed in the playground, which was someone would come up to you and go, did you hear Man United are selling Cole? And as a big Man United fan, you'd be like, what? And the person would go, yeah, £2.50 a bag. Because the joke was that they were selling actual coal. Now, that is, with hindsight, very funny, but at the time, it messed with your emotions a bit. And then, if the person was an absolute banter merchant, they would follow it up with this. Yeah, and also, Blackburn are selling flowers. And by the way, you wouldn't click on. Because you're a fucking idiot child. And you go, what are they? Flip, he's really good. Are they selling him? Yeah. And the person will go, yeah, they're selling flowers. Blackburn are, yeah. $1.50 a bunch. And no one really, that's the sort of joke whenever you were in P4, you pretended you got it, but you didn't get it. You'd be like, yeah, mad. And then you would just go about your day being like, that's a ridiculously low price to sell a top goalkeeper for. And then somebody would explain to you, go, no, he means they're selling like flowers, that like flowers you pick out of the ground. And then you would laugh and go, oh, right, yeah. But then your thought for the rest of that day would be, why is a football club selling bunches of flowers? And why are Man United selling bags of coal? But that's just the way it was back then. You get smarter, though. That's a great thing about growing up. Your brain develops. We got more questions. One more football question. One more football question. One more football question. The waffle. Sorry, I said the raffle. That's such an old guy thing to call something that's supposed to be the waffle, to call it the raffle. Favorite Irish League memory. My favorite. See, here's the thing. I haven't been to too many Irish League games, so I can't really say. I've been to a few cup finals whenever I was younger, just because a couple of my mates were big Glentoran fans and still are big Glentoran fans. I was at the Glentoran Coleraine game, the cup final, in about, I don't know, 2002 or 3, and I just remember Jimmy Nesbitt being on the pitch going absolutely bucked aft when Coleraine won. So probably that. I really enjoyed that because I couldn't work out why he was there. And now that I'm older, again, when you get older, you realise things. I was like, alright, he's from Coleraine, he's a big fan. But at the time, I was like, does he be in Cold Feet? And then does he also play for Coleraine? But yeah, that was probably my best moment. But I don't know, like I love watching. I always obviously watch a lot of Irish League when it's on. I don't miss an episode of Final Score on BBC. I did like it when that young goalkeeper bounced over the fence in the Warrenpoint Ballymena game this season or last season and just started scrapping with a load of fans. I just jumped in like a wrestler entering the Royal Rumble at number 30 because he's like 17 or something, is he, the keeper? And then somebody after was like, because I'm obviously a member of Irish League Fans on Facebook, which is a forum where people just get at each other and it's phenomenal. And some people were like, aye, because they were slabbering at his dad and all. Fucking class. See, if somebody was slabbering at my dad, I'd just go, here, knock that in the head. What I wouldn't do is jump over a fence and fight 60 guys. But I enjoyed it. You know, people were like, you should get in loads of trouble. Nah, that's great crack. That should be allowed at Irish League games. There should be like a wild card where keepers don't get in trouble if they bounce over a fence and just start scrapping people, as long as the people want to be scrapped with. So probably that. Angela Galloway, nearly called her Angela, says, have you watched the program Normal People? I think I'm an what's the opposite of normal? Abnormal. And by the way, there's a lot of people who were like, what? How do you not know that? And they didn't know it was abnormal until I said, have I watched it? Not yet. I think I'm one of the only people who hasn't, but it's on my list. I didn't say it earlier, but it actually is on my list. Oh, fuck, we need to check if that Jeremy Beadle program was the thing. Yeah, I've heard Normal People is class. A few of my mates in different like WhatsApp groups and stuff are like, definitely check this out. It's really, really good. Although I've heard it's a bit blue. I've heard it's a little bit dirty. So we'll have to check it out. I hear that there is a guy from Northern Ireland in it who's apparently class. So maybe we'll chat to him and see if we can get him on. Normal People star Paul Mescal is stunned as James Corden revealed the BBC drama changed my life. Yeah, well, people are absolutely loving it. I watched the trailer, thought it looked great. So I will check it out. I will check it out. Normal People. I'll watch it. I'll watch an episode or two before the next podcast and report back and let you know what I think. But more importantly, I just want to see if Jeremy Beadle was on his own show. Jeremy Beadle with the wee hand. I want to see if he had a TV program where he was like stranded on an island. Jeremy Beadle. Oh no. There's just loads of stories about him dying, which is sad. Jeremy Beadle TV appearances. If this program didn't exist, that's mental. There's a program called Celebrity Sleepover. Couldn't have that now because there's too many dirty bastards and all working on TV and all. Yeah, I don't think that this show ever existed. Nah, people do the funniest things. You've been framed. Honestly, I thought there was a TV show where Jeremy Beadle was just on an island. There was a show called Win Beadle's Money. It's just a game show where you could get some money from Beadle. Oh, Listen to this. Why have I never heard of this? Any cash scored by the players would be deducted from Beadle's bank, which started at £1,000. I love that the Beadle was just banking his own. I mean, it definitely wouldn't have been his own money, but Beadle's bank sounds like a place you wouldn't deposit your money. Beadle's bank, because it just sounds a wee bit dodgy. And there we have a lovely person being like, the last episode of the podcast was really good. Thanks. Yeah, Maddie Carlton says, "What's your thoughts on you love? You love, capital U love." I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Let me Google it. Is it University of Ulster? You love. Anonymous confessions. Oh, like, is it like one of those overheard pages? Overheard of Queens. What do you think of this? I think of that. I mean, 1 out of 50 of those is true. It's like Cosmopolitan magazine, or when any fellow comedian has a hilarious conversation with someone in their family, and there's a punchline at the end of it said by a child. Hey, didn't happen. Didn't happen. It was just a nice thought, but it didn't happen. Um, so I don't know. Mark Kelly, who is an Irish League footballer himself, Mark plays for Newry City. He says, "Favorite guest you've had on so far on Team Me podcast, and who's your dream guest?" My favorite guest so far, I'm gonna be a dick. I mean, you know I'm not lapping this. You know I genuinely mean this when I say it. Everybody has been class. There's no guest where I've gone, oh fuck, that was tough. Honestly, like anyone you've seen on the episodes, if I look like I'm enjoying myself, I'm enjoying myself. I would say um the episode that obviously like blew up more than the rest was the Jamie Dornan episode. That sort of propelled us into like the Apple charts, like into the whole UK top 40, which is nuts. So I think that one probably stands out to me the most for the reason that, like all the rest of them, I think it was funny. I fucking had loads of fun doing it, but I had been like, me and Jamie had been chatting about doing something for about 6 or 7 years. Should we do like a sketch or an interview for something? And it just never really like happened for one reason or another. Like, obviously being like a top actor, he doesn't know what he's going to be working on from one year to the next, and he might get a call to like go to Australia for 3. It just didn't happen basically, but we always sort of kept in touch here and there, and to actually be able to do the episode with him, and him to like everybody I've had on be just so generous was great. So they all stand out. I mean that. If there's one that I don't enjoy, I'll be honest, I'll say you have my word. My dream guest, I don't know. If I'm just shooting for the stars, Mick Jagger. I would love to get Mick Jagger or Harry Styles, or Mick Jagger and Harry Styles on the same episode. Because I'm a big Rolling Stones fan and a big Harry fan and One Direction fan. In fact, Niall Horan would be great as well. I've asked him to do the podcast, so we'll see if anything can be done there. So probably one of those boys. Matthew Mernon says, "Could you talk about this? PSNI are probing the sale of UDA flags for the health service." I could talk about that, Matthew, but I won't, because don't be starting anything with the paramilitaries. Basically, they're probably doing a lot of admin at the minute. Those paramilitary guys, I'd say they don't have many jobs on at the minute, so they're probably just making lists of bad boys. They've got to fucking sort out. So I don't want to be on that list. So yeah, big up the NHS. We'll just leave it there. We've got what's this here? What's this here? Oh yeah, just people just sharing out that video. That's cool. I like that. Zach says, oh, hold on, it's a wee TikTok. Guys, him as his posh character, Mike McGoldrick. He runs the Boytown podcast with fellow comedian Dave Elliott, and he has a YouTube channel that's home to many viral videos, his character sketches, podcasts, and even 2 free. Zach, next up is Shane Todd. Thanks a lot, Zach. Zach has done a TikTok of me. I don't know if that's a phrase. I'm gonna write thanks a lot, mate. I don't know if he's really mugged me off in it or what, but it just seems like he's just like explaining to people who I am. So cheers for that, my man. I still don't know what TikTok is yet, even though I have it. I put a couple of fucking dancing videos on it, obviously, but I don't know what the crack is. Craig Yates says, when Mr. Boris eases this lockdown, by the way, Craig, I mean, I think you're from Northern Ireland, maybe, but like the way you've said that makes it seem like you might be like a middle-aged African taxi driver. When Mr. Boris eases this lockdown, and I enjoy that a lot, and things return to normal, what are you looking forward to most? I think I have so many grand plans of like, I'm going to go swimming in the sea, and I'm going to, I'm going to go and do this and do that. I'll probably just do exactly the same stuff as I always did. I'm looking forward to going out to restaurants with friends. I'm looking forward to hugging family. I'm looking forward to just literally being able to do what I want. Because I do what I want, mate. All right, Conor McGregor. I just kind of like the idea of not being restricted by government rules, but at the same time, I like the rules. And whenever the government stuff came out just there, I haven't actually looked properly into it yet, but I think they're extending the lockdown by 3 weeks. I'm like, yes, that's what we're all about, boys. That's what we're all about. But it's nice to, like, you take it for granted that you can just go anywhere at any time. And but it is weird because I think I talked about this in the last podcast. I'm less and less tempted to like go out and do things that I would have done, or like I have less of a want to. At the start of lockdown, I was like, I can't wait to just go to Nando's with all my mates. But right now, and by the way, we could all go. All my mates and me could go because it'd be a table of four. But now I'm sort of like, yes, as much as I would love that, let's just leave it a while longer. I think if the lockdown got lifted tomorrow and they were like, Nando's is open for the boys, I don't think I'd be rushing down. So I don't know. There's loads of stuff I do want to do, Craig, but I don't feel the need to just go straight back into it, if that makes sense. Thanks for your question. Sorry, I probably answered it in a really bad way. The Belfast guy in China, big favourite of the podcast, says, will the virus lockdown actually change your outlook and perspective on life and how you spend your time in reality? Maybe. Like, I think it has made me more productive, spending time putting out videos and writing and using this camera that I'm filming the video version of the podcast on. I have had this camera for years, but I haven't really ever used it. I've relied on other people, and I will always work with other people like Michael and Aaron, who are brilliant video makers, and I love doing sketches with them. But I can still do the more basic sketches by myself, as long as there's just one person in them. There's no excuse for me not to do that. I would always been like, oh, I need someone to help me shoot this. I can kind of do things myself. I'm actually okay at editing as well. Like, I'm basic at it. But I think I'll back myself a wee bit more to be able to do stuff on my own. And I don't know, it's been really nice to like spend more time at home. Like, it's not like I'm away 6 nights a week or whatever. I do go football training, and I go and do gigs and podcasts and stuff like that. So I've spent loads of time at home, and that's been great. And there's a lot of people who are like, fuck's sake, get me out of here. I'm actually loving that part of it, and I'm loving being able to do more podcasts and all that. But I am looking forward to being back in our studio, because we just got that before lockdown. Changing my perspective, not really. I think I've always had like a decent outlook. Like, I'm happy with my outlook on life, but it's just reaffirmed to me, I guess, that I love socializing. I love seeing people, and I'm a bit sad to be missing out on that, of course. James Brown says, hey, James Brown, baby. Not that James Brown. You mentioned before you went to Campbell. Do you have fond memories of school, and do any funny stories jump to mind? Would you ever consider going back and giving a talk about your career? Yeah, I did go to Campbell until 5th year. Do you have fond memories of school, and any funny stories jump out? Yes, I do have fond memories of going to school, of my time at Campbell. I wouldn't say I fitted in massively. Like, I would say I did feel um like the things I was really into that didn't they just didn't cater for. Like, it's a big rugby school, and you can tell by my complexion, like, I'm not a rugby guy. Like, I'm honestly far too cute to play rugby, and I was also so small at school, so I just didn't like rugby. Like, I was obsessed with football, and it seemed mad to me that we weren't allowed to play football. But I get now that, like, obviously the school wants to win the school's cup and has a big tradition of that. But it was tough to not play football when you hear that your mates that were going to other schools were just flat out playing in football teams and all that. That was tough. Um, I do have fond memories. I feel like my outside of school friends remained my friends, and I definitely did have a good amount of friends in school. But it was okay. It was tough not going to a school that had girls. You know, it was an all boys school, and that was difficult because whenever you're like in your like your early teens, you just want to be, well, personally, I just wanted to be around girls. Like, I like being silly around girls. I like trying to impress girls, and I actually liked like being friends with girls at that age as well. And of course, you were wanting to impress. You wanted to make sure the hair looked good and all that kind of stuff. uh but whenever you went to an all boys school, I was happy to just rock in with bedhead every day, because like you weren't trying to get the sideways glance from any of the boys. Um, so it was a really good school. Like, don't get me wrong, good school. I think I struggled a wee bit academically because I did have the power to do better academically, but because I would have been in like the bottom class. Whenever like they ranked you in order of like how smart you were, and they would have put me in the bottom class. They were the most disruptive classes. Don't get me wrong, I was kind of part of that disruptiveness at times, I'm sure. But it just, I don't know. I think I would like to have gone to like Prairie, or a school like that, where maybe like I would have. I think because there was such smart people that went to Campbell, as well as idiots like me. If you weren't one of the smart people, I think you just sort of switched off. And I had this thing where I was like, oh, I'm not smart enough to be like, I may as well just mess about. So yeah, I do have real fun times as well, and still fond of a lot of people that I went to school with. Do any funny stories jump to mind? My first ever fight, I had like a proper arranged fight with David Carville. Shout out to David Carville, who I was like mates with. And honestly, there was this weird thing where like one summer in between, I think it was first and second year, um, I came, yeah, it was like the first day back of second year, and a few guys that I'd been mates with like were suddenly really weird with me, and like giving me the cold shoulder a bit, and I just kind of thought that was weird. Didn't think anything of it. Thought it was a bit weird, and then I think David Carville may well give a different version of events here, but I think on MSN Messenger one day, because of course everything started back then on Messenger, I think he started like slabbering at me on MSN Messenger in like the first week back of second year, and I think I maybe like said something back that he didn't like. In fact, I know I did. I think it was like a like your ma type thing. In fact, it was that, and because I didn't know what else to say, um, and he was like, fuck, we're gonna fight, and I said, all right, let's fight, and it was like properly arranged. There was a crowd of about 150, and it's a fond memory now because it was the worst fight of all time. Like, I remember he had the advantage. He'll dispute this, right? But, and by the way, we like became friends again like shortly after this, and like if I saw him out now and stuff, I'd love to chat to him. Like, he's a real nice guy. But for this day, we fucking hated each other, and he came down like a hill to fight me. I was already there. I was just working with my pad guy, and just throwing a few punches. He came down the hill, so he had the advantage because he, like, the momentum was physically behind him. So he started throwing punches on his way down the hill. Took me a while to get back in the game, and then at one point we were just throwing punches back and forth, but we had like Jeremy Beadle, like small hands, so like no one's punch was doing damage. And then at one point I just like, because I just thought it'd be funny, I just open hand slapped him across the face, and a lot of people were like, that was so sly. And I was like, I know, but we were having a full fight. So, yeah, and I just remember a chant of dildo sausage broke out during the fight because people were bored. I think that was led by my man Michael Ralph, who was just like, let's just get a bit of entertainment going here. So that was a fond memory. But school was good. I enjoyed it more towards the end, like fifth year, whenever I was like, I don't think I'm coming back here. But Campbell, like, there was a lot of good at Campbell, like a lot of really good teachers there as well, good people. Would I consider going back and giving a talk about my career? Absolutely. Absolutely, I would, yeah. If they want to do that, if they want to be like, don't follow this guy's career, yeah, of course. Do we have more questions? Oh shit, yeah, we did, but I deleted that one. I didn't mean to. Sorry to whoever that was, but I have no way of knowing who you were. So there we go, folks. Got through some questions there. Again, these solo episodes, right? I know they're different to the guest episodes because the guests, like, I'm trying to just be on it and be funny all the time and like constantly like ask questions. These solo ones are just like me opening my brain and just pouring it out. And I don't know if it's laugh a minute, but hopefully you find it in some way interesting because I really enjoy doing these solo episodes. But we're coming back with a guest on Wednesday. Friday will be me doing the solo episode again, and every Monday, let me plug it one more time, me and producer Dan do a Patreon episode where we pick like a different theme or topic and we do like a full episode on that. And also on the Patreon, there's a lot of cool stuff if you want to sign up. Patreon.com/teawithmepodcast. What else do you have to plug? Tonight, if you're listening to this on the day it comes out, Friday, it's our last show on BBC Radio Ulster, the Rave Lockdown, 6 until 7:30. Really bittersweet. That seemed like I was going to burst into tears, but it was just kind of like half a burp, even though I can't actually burp out loud, which is a good thing to not be able to do because, rude. But it's bittersweet being the last one because I'm really looking forward to people hearing the last show because I think we're going out with a big one. But it's tough because we have like a 10-week deal on Radio Ulster and this is the last week of it, and then there is a show already pre-programmed to come in after us for a 10-week run. And we've had like the best time on Radio Ulster. Like we normally do the Shane Todd show where we do like features and games and play a bit of music. But a couple of weeks ago we were just like, fuck it, let's just play old school dance. And Radio Ulster went, that's fine, go for it. And it has blown up. It has become this, I was going to say a movement. I'll be realistic. It's become this well-supported thing where so many people who maybe weren't listening to Radio Ulster are suddenly saying like, I've just discovered this, or they see the tweets about it and they've come over because we've said we're doing the show. And it's something different. And I think people have started doing what I do, which is sort of like make it like the start of your weekend. People are like Friday night, they have a drink, they have a bit of a dance in the house, people send in videos and we share them back out, and it's been one of the most satisfying projects I've ever done, because it is a tremendous feeling whenever everybody is in this weird, frustrating, sad time of lockdown, and you're able to play these songs that I love, because I love old school dance, and we're getting to play. Some of them are good, some of them are cheesy, some of them are a bit debatable, but me and Dave, me and my best friend, are able to play these songs, have a bit of banter back and forth, and people are like, it's the highlight of some people's weeks, and and it's the highlight of my week too, and same with Dave. And we've just really, really, really loved it. I think it comes across in the program just how much we love it. But that happiness is contrasted with the sadness of this being the last one. We've looked at every possible way. Like, I've asked the question, is there any way we can continue it? And I've just been told it's not possible. So it's the last one, and it is like, it genuinely makes us sad. Like, it properly makes us sad, and I know it'll be emotional being the last show, because not that it feels like we're letting people down, but I hate the feeling that we're like abandoning people in a way. And that maybe sounds like over the top or exaggerated, but every feeling is exaggerated during this lockdown. So us feeling like fuck, we're not able to do the show anymore because there's nothing else going on. That feeling just for me gets magnified, and yeah, it's tough. It's tough to take that this is the last one. And look, the show could come back, but we're just in this time. It feels like we're doing something important. It feels like important radio. Like someone gave me advice when I was starting radio, which was make it feel like this is important for people. And I didn't know what that meant until we started doing this rave lockdown. So I'm really looking forward in a way to the last one because it's there's fun associated with that. It's like we're trying to make it like the last day of term, if that makes sense. We want to make it the best one yet. We want to play fucking cheesy music where you go, normally I wouldn't listen to this, but look, I'm at home in the house by myself. Uh, I'm a wee bit sad talking about it, and I don't want to end the podcast on that note. But just know that, like, if you listen to the rave lockdown, or you're gonna listen on Friday for your first one, it's been a complete riot doing it. Like, me and Dave have had, and producer Mark have had the best time. If there was any way for us to continue it, we would have done it. Like, we exhausted every possible avenue. Like, spoke to different people about it. It's not possible. But if you get a chance to listen tonight, it's BBC Radio Ulster, 6 until 7:30. It would mean a lot to us if you listen and you're on board. And hopefully, if you're in lockdown, if you're maybe having a bit of a shitty time, it's not going to make everything better. Obviously, I'm not saying that. But for an hour and a half, it might put a smile on your face. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast or watching. If you watch the video version on YouTube, we're putting out 2 of these a week. It's been great for me to do these as well. Just doing the podcast and sort of feeling a connection with everyone. On the merch front, we may have that sorted. Been chatting to Material Goods, and we may well have that sorted. We are talking about, get ready for this, a cup and saucer, a tea with me cup and saucer. But we'll see what happens, and we'll get that sorted. When I know more about it, we'll put that out. See you next time. Enjoy your tea. Sip, sip. All the best.